Hey everybody, Reed Price here. I play the role of Rob Shandon on Sullivan's Crossing, and you're listening to Corman Productions' Deep Dive TV Podcast with Dave and Stacie.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corman Productions with my co-host Stacie here to talk about Sullivan's Crossing Season 2, Episode 7, titled Reunions. The episode's description reads as follows. Sully continues to try and figure out his financial worries as he is forced to confront his past. Frank and Edna continue to be at odds over Frank's refusal to make peace with his cousin. Phoebe struggles with her regrets. Maggie plans a family fishing trip hoping to bring Phoebe, Sully, and Andrew closer together. But Andrew's behavior only causes Maggie to rethink her feelings for him. Meanwhile, Cal entertains a mysterious woman at his cabin while both Rob and Connie deal with relationships of their own.
Ooh.
The episode is written by Roma Roth, directed by April Mullen. She directs this episode and the next one. This is her first work on the series. Before going any further, I'll tell you a couple things. One, this is not a spoiler-free podcast, so if you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go and check it out and then come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you're listening on one of the platforms that this podcast is now available on, please follow, and feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Corman Productions, where additional content can be discovered. If you're already on our YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, and subscribe to our channel. All right, shout-outs this week.
Okay, what do we got?
I got Skylar Anderson. He says, I appreciate that Cal doesn't force anything with Maggie. He provides her with space, respects her boundaries, and allows stuff to just happen. Truthfully, I feel for Maggie. It's hard to kick Andrew out, especially with the baby. Sully is sick. Her mom is clearly dealing with a lot and is having a hard time opening up to Cal, and her friend is gone. Yeah, basically my comment back to him is that everything that Cal is the exact opposite of what Andrew is and how he behaves.
Right.
And Sharon Greenman, she commented, gee, you two really don't like Andrew, do you?
What gave you that idea?
I don't know. Maybe we spent an hour bashing the guy, and we're gonna, be talking about him quite a bit in this one as well.
Yeah.
And she says that she doesn't like him either. Maybe it's because he's an insecure, totally clueless, controlling, privileged, narcissistic asshat who is in love with the fantasy of who Maggie is. Tell me how you really feel, Sharon. She was what Sully said. Andrew may have been happy, but I don't think Maggie was, even before she came back. I agree with that. Mm-hmm. He never bothered to ask Maggie what she wanted. Yes, exactly. And that is, in fact, brought up by Maggie herself in this episode. Right. When he told Cal and friends about the baby, I wanted to throw a glass of his expensive whiskey in his face to wipe that silly look away. Yeah, I feel that. I suspect we won't have to put up with him for too much longer. At least I hope. He's to Sullivan's Crossing as, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Garmain, played by Warren Hemsley, is to Virgin River, namely the most disliked character. And we talked a little bit more after that on the Facebook group about the situation. And yeah, I completely agree with everything that Sharon just said.
So Lauren Hammersley is the actress who plays Connie in this series.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So she's actually the disliked character in Virgin River?
I don't know. It sounds like it.
Okay, well, that's interesting.
We should check out Virgin River.
We should.
In some capacity. Watch it, I mean.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Neither of us have.
All right. So, Stacie, your thoughts on this week's episode.
All right, so halfway through writing my notes, I decided to write my own synopsis of everything that happened in this episode because my notes felt really repetitive. So here's everything that happens in this episode in my condensed format.
Okay.
Everyone told everyone about the baby. Everyone tells Maggie to give Cal a chance. Everyone tells Sully to give Andrew a chance. And Andrew proves he doesn't deserve another chance.
I mean, absolutely.
I think that sums it up.
Basically, there was a scene, and we'll get to this, of course, where I'm just like, I literally what the fucked the TV out loud. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's almost... So here's the thing. I kind of wish they didn't so thoroughly stack the deck against this character.
Yeah.
I kind of wished they made him a little bit more likable, a little bit more, let's say, that we could see more of why Maggie would be even interested in this guy. Because the way he acts in this episode is like, have you ever been around a woman in your entire life? Like, I think I would have appreciated if they made it a little bit more of a competition between Andrew and Cal, rather than being so heavily weighted in the direction of Cal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they had actually made him an actual legitimate love interest, and no, that's not what we get here.
Yeah.
Like, everything about this guy is like, what?
Yeah, they
what?
100%
Right.
only want the fandom
Right.
to feel one way
Right.
about this situation.
Right. Like what did you ever see in this guy? But, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting episode in a lot of respects. It's another Andrew episode where you just want to throw things at the TV.
But it has a better resolution for that story.
It does.
Than the last one.
Maggie finally wakes the hell up.
Oh, hopefully it sticks.
All right.
Somewhat. So usually I don't hit the cast until we get to them, but I'm going to go ahead and start with the cast in this episode before we get into our scene by scene. So in addition to our regular cast and our regular recurring characters, we have our 2 guest stars that appeared through a lot of this season, and that is Michelle Nolden's Alyssa, returning as Connie's love interest, and Cindy Sampson returning as Jane, Rob's love interest. That's finally gets somewhere this episode. And then we have Dean Armstrong reprising the role of Glenn Perry once again.
Oh, which, by the way, is another person that Sharon does not like. And we haven't seen enough of Glenn for me to not like him.
We've seen enough to know that we're not supposed to like him.
Right.
But
right.
I'm not sure yet where that's going.
Right. I can't imagine this is going to work out too well.
Yeah, I find it weird, though. Like, what are his intentions? Because, like, we already knew he wanted to just buy the whole place out from under him. So what's he trying to do?
Right.
I don't know. Anyways, we only have one new character this episode, and that is Cal's sister, Sedona.
Yes.
Now, we've met Sedona before when she was a child. This is our first time meeting adult Sedona, and she is played by Megan Ori.
Okay.
Now, I immediately recognized Megan. She played Ruby on Once Upon a Time.
Oh, okay.
She was in 46 episodes of that series. Ruby, of course, being the Little Red Riding Hood character.
Okay.
In Once Upon a Time. So I instantly recognized her. She has quite an impressive filmography. As far as things I took notes on, she's also in one episode of NCIS New Orleans.
Right, with Scott Bakula.
Of course, yeah, we have to bring that up because that's Scott Bakula series. It pulls our fandoms together right there. And then I have a couple Christmas movies I want to shout out for her. So she has a 2023 Christmas movie that she's the star in called The Secret Gift of Christmas.
I've heard of it.
And I know why you've heard of it because Bob Mann makes an appearance in it.
Oh, okay.
So it's one we've looked at trying to find. It actually is currently playing on Tubi.
So maybe that's one we should cover then.
Maybe.
Yeah, okay.
Because we've been, circling Christmas movies for a while.
Yep.
Quite a while. So yeah, The Secret Gift of Christmas, 2023 movie, currently on Tubi, stars Megan Ori, has an appearance by Bob Mann. And you know who else makes an appearance in it?
Who?
Elle Clouette. That's the little girl who plays Eloise in From.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's actually her only 2 credits. Is Eloise in From, and then a character in this movie.
Oh.
Also, Megan it looks like she does a Christmas movie every year, at least one. And her 2024 movie that's coming out is called Believe in Christmas, and that is premiering on November 30th on the Hallmark Channel. It stars Megan. It also features Lindura as her best friend, and Bob Mann makes an appearance in that one as well.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know. Because it hasn't released yet, right? So the IMDb isn't complete. It only has, the main cast.
Yeah.
And so Bob Mann's not listed on the IMDb for that movie yet. But I had just today, actually, I'd already had my notes printed, which is why I don't know if you can see I have scribbles all over my notes instead of just my printed version. Because Bob Mann had actually shared a post that Megan had done for this film on his Insta. And I was like, I wonder. So I messaged him. I was like, do you make an appearance in this film? And he's like, yeah, I do. I was like, yay. That's a scoop because it's not on IMDb yet. So,
right.
So yes, Bob Mann makes an appearance as well. And of course, like I said, Lindora co-stars in it.
All
so
right.
I would have definitely watched that one.
Yeah, that sounds like something
I don't know
if
it's one we'd be able to cover because it's premiering this year
right. Yeah,
on Hallmark. And we haven't had luck with Hallmark trying to... Well, that's another topic. But.
Right. All right, anything else to say before diving in?
One other thing I have to comment on is based on the press photos for this episode that I downloaded from CTV. Figured out which scene that CW cut from us this week in the U.S.
I'm going to guess it's the introduction to Sedona because we didn't get one in this episode.
No, that's not it.
Okay.
That is our introduction to Sedona.
That's a really weird introduction.
Well, based on the description where it says Cal entertains a mysterious woman, I think we were supposed to be like, what? when we meet her.
Okay.
No, the scene that apparently was cut out based on there are multiple press photos of this scene is a scene where Alyssa is at Shandon's diner.
Okay.
So we didn't get that.
Interesting.
And I don't know what happened in that scene. And I noticed that like between my first viewing and my second viewing when I actually took the notes, because that's when I was doing all the like downloading the photos and making our thumbnail. And I'm thinking after watching it the second time, after seeing those photos that that she was at Shandon's, and that's when she gets like a message like, "Hey, Connie wants to talk to you."
Oh, okay.
So I'm thinking that took place before she goes to Connie's apartment.
I mean, if that's the case, I guess that's not a bad cut because you
I
really
mean, we don't know.
Right.
We don't know exactly what was in that scene.
Right. Yeah. All right. Diving in.
Let's go ahead and dive right into the scene by scene.
All right, we open with gorgeous imagery of the area. I mean, like, it is gorgeous footage of Sullivan's Crossing. I felt like especially shouting that out this week. But yeah, Frank, Edna, and Sully are discussing the Walter situation. Sully and Frank are going to meet up with Glenn later. Sully accidentally lets slip the good news about Maggie's pregnancy. All right, so here's a little difference between what Andrew did and what Sully does here. Andrew did what he did intentionally, and then went on to share news with Maggie's friends, which he had no business doing.
Very intentionally, and almost seemed like it was out of spite.
Right. Sully here, this was a complete slip.
It was an accident. And he realized immediately when he screwed up. He was like, she's going to kill me.
And the thing is, he also apologizes for her later.
Right,
so
exactly.
That's the difference between those two situations.
What specifically he said is, I can't believe that guy is going to be the father of my grandchild.
Yeah, you and me both, Sully.
Right?
So Frank and Edna are happy. So is Sully, but he's not happy about the Andrew of it all. Edna points out that Phoebe's father felt the same way. Edna thinks he's going to need to find a way to get along with Andrew for Maggie's and the baby's sake. And this is the happiest we've seen Edna all season, by the way. And the happiest we're going to see her again, because she's not going to be happy throughout the rest of the episode.
Right.
And then we have our credits.
And if you don't say this person's name right in the next scene.
Okay. I did say it right the first couple of times. But we come back. Phoebe is downstairs. And we got some juice. She's got some juice for Maggie and coffee for Andrew, who is still sleeping. Andrew can just stay sleeping for all I care. But Phoebe is looking at old pictures. We get filled on the history of how she found her way to meeting Sully. That's my second time in a couple weeks doing that. But her dad didn't like Sully, and the relationship began to decline. And they started fighting, and she wonders if maybe she made the right choice or not. Now, what's really good about this episode is that they really humanize Phoebe.
Yeah,
and they did that the last episode too, but they did it much better here, in my opinion. They're fleshing her into a character that we could kind of care about, and relate to,
as opposed to just like, she's that one in Boston that is on Andrew's side.
I don't think they're ever going to do the same for Andrew, but they're at least doing it for her.
Yeah. So she talked about like it was a backpacking trip actually that led her to the crossing the first time when she met Sully. And her father was always against it. And like really every conversation with Phoebe this episode about her past is mirroring Maggie, right? So it's about her making decisions on where to live and who to be with and disagreeing with her father. And then once she has a daughter, deciding what's best for her and making the decision of where to be then. And it's all the same things that Maggie has to make decisions on right now. Does she go back to Boston or does she stay at the crossing? Should she be with her baby's father just because he's the father, or is that a bad idea?
I'm going to go along with the idea that it's a bad idea.
We know it's a bad idea, but these are the things that she's struggling with, right? And these are the decisions that she has to make in her life, and she doesn't know what she's doing with her life right now. She's very confused.
Right.
So she's looking at all of these conversations with her mom, and she's like, well, do you regret the decisions you made?
Right, yeah. So basically Maggie's questioning all her own life decisions at the same time that her mother is questioning hers.
Right.
And she makes the wrong read, I think, because she mentions that she is a talented surgeon and not to let the whole Walter situation cloud her judgment on that. But I think Maggie is questioning way more than just that.
Right. She's like, did I even want to be a surgeon?
Right.
Or am I only doing this because of Walter?
Right, yeah.
And you know what? Maybe that's more reason you should just come be a regular old doctor.
Yeah.
In Timberlake.
Yeah.
Instead of a fancy surgeon. You can, be more helpful in other less specialty fields, I guess. Not that they don't need a surgeon. I'm sure they need a neurosurgeon too, but
Right. So Sydney ends up coming in, and Sydney is apparently clueless about the whole Phoebe situation. Doesn't even seem to know that she's like who she's with or what her last name
she
is.
asks if Walter's there, and Phoebe doesn't like that. She doesn't want to have to tell, so she excuses herself. It was funny though because Phoebe didn't even recognize Sydney. She was like, "I didn't know we had company coming," and Maggie's like, "It's not company, it's Sydney."
Well, I mean, how long has it been since
long
she's
time,
seen Sydney?
like they were kids.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, Phoebe beats a hasty retreat. Sydney's like, "What did I say?" And Maggie offers to fill her in. We see Rob waking up in the bed next to his love interest Jane.
Yes, he spent the night at Jane's house.
He does not look happy about it. He seems very conflicted.
He has he very awkwardly tries to sneak out. It doesn't work. She wakes up. She invites him to stay longer.
Yeah, everything about the scene and the way Rob acts here, I would not find very encouraging if I were Jane.
Right.
And I think he knows that he just kind of totally screws this entire thing up.
Yeah.
Which he reveals in the conversation later with Cal. But Sydney is surprised that Andrew broke the news to her parents without asking first. Yeah, that seems on brand for him. Maggie offers a weak defense of his actions, saying he was excited. Maggie is second guessing everything. Sydney wonders if that includes Cal. And Maggie sighs, and Sydney suggests that after hearing the voicemail, that she should hear him out and maybe give the guy a chance. Andrew comes downstairs, and he is all like, "Oh, I guess you heard the good news." And Sydney gives a very it's definitely some shade that she's throwing here.
Oh yeah,
but it's subtle.
Right.
She's like, "Oh yeah."
He talks about the baby without knowing that Sydney knows, and she calls him out on it.
Yeah.
She's like, "Well, if I didn't know, I do now."
Right, but she said it in such a soft way that it could be read as just.
I'm sure it went right over his head.
Oh yeah. But it was definitely a dig.
I think Maggie realized.
Right.
Like Maggie realized that Sydney realized how crappy Andrew's being.
Right. Andrew asks Maggie if she's drinking coffee. Basically,
He's trying to doctor her.
Yes.
And, this isn't cool because she
not just doctoring her.
is a doctor and she's smart and she knows what she's doing.
Not just that, but he's also babying her. And,
right.
Yeah, treating her like, an infant. And basically she says that, no, I'm drinking orange juice. And Andrew's like, oh, that's my girl. And Andrew, why don't you go back to bed and vacate yourself from my sight, please? But we know that's not going to happen. So Maggie tries to get the details about what Sully said to him. He won't answer and declines her invitation to talk about it. And he heads off to the pharmacy to buy some things. And we will find out later what he's going to buy. The meeting with Glenn, he wants to develop. Frank and Sully don't want to overly develop. They made promises to the tribe that was there a long time ago. Right.
So Sully owns a lot of land.
Yeah.
But only this small area where the the crossing campground has been developed. And basically the idea is all the rest of the land we're leaving as it is as a preserve. And Glenn's kind of like, yeah, we got to build more housing and it'll be great for everybody. But once he hears about this promise, he's like, oh, that's not what I meant. I just meant upgrading within your current footprint. It's not what he meant.
No. And I don't buy that he actually means anything that he says in the scene. Frank and Sully seem satisfied. Glenn suggests a 70-30 split, with Sully having the 70% and Glenn having the 30%. And it seems that they have a deal. I highly doubt that it's going to be
Sully said he was hoping for 20%, but he comes around and agrees to the 30%. They shake on it, which is legally binding, by the way.
Yeah.
A verbal agreement. But the paperwork isn't signed yet, so Glenn says he's going to send over the paperwork.
Cal talks to his sister. And it feels, like I said, like we are missing a scene here.
Okay, so Cal's having coffee with this woman. We don't know who she is yet. She's wearing one of his shirts. And my note is that the same shirt that Maggie wore when she spent the night here during the storm?
Probably.
It might be. Or at least it's very similar.
Yep.
And, you're left kind of like, what's happening? Who is this? Who's spending the night in his cabin? Mm-hmm. Very quickly, though, we hear her name. And if you pay attention, you know who Sedona is. That's his sister. Because, he's California, she's Sedona. I wonder what the other siblings' names are. Because aren't there, 2 other siblings?
I'm pretty sure there is.
Yeah.
I can't remember
I'm curious about that.
Mm-hmm.
And we find out that this is a surprise visit. He didn't know she was coming. And this isn't like her to have a surprise visits. But she says she just wanted to surprise him. And we learned she's a therapist. And we learned that their dad's still in the picture. That surprised me. I kind of thought like both parents were like gone and not around anymore at all.
Yeah, that was the impression I had as well, but I guess that's not the case.
Yeah, because she talks about dad's worried about him, and I don't know. I was like, oh, there's a dad?
Right. Yeah, I kind of was under the impression that he was dead.
Dead or abandoned or just not around.
Right. All right, so Edna and Maggie talk about Walter and that situation. And Edna reveals that she knows about the baby due to the accidental Sully slip. She brought her a baby outfit. Edna asks about Cal, saying she couldn't help but notice that, how close they had gotten. Maggie says there's no future there, but Edna thinks that some things are worth taking a chance on. Edna, meanwhile, goes to Sully's and apologizes to Phoebe. She's also there checking to see how she's doing, and she offers up cookies as a peace offering.
It was a whole basket of baked goods, which Phoebe was really happy to get.
I would be too.
Basically, they made up, and they said they missed each other, and we're friends now.
Yay! Sully and Frank find Maggie in the shop. Frank hugs Maggie for the good news. Sully, of course, apologizes in this scene, making him significantly better than Andrew. Frank isn't convinced by Glenn as Sully is. He's not convinced that this offer is going to be a good deal. Mm-hmm. Maggie brings up being taught to fish. She wants him to give Andrew a chance, and Sully agrees to give it a try. Andrew enters and comes in with blood pressure monitors. Are these for me? Every time I see his face on the screen, and some other stuff. He wants to make sure the baby and her are healthy, which is a line that he will repeat at least a half dozen times in this episode.
The medical stuff doesn't bother me nearly as much as
everything else.
The whole, I told everybody you're pregnant bit.
Right, yeah.
But it's bothering Maggie a lot. Mm-hmm. I think it's bothering her more than it would bother most. He's being overdoting, of course. But, she's a doctor, too.
Right.
She knows.
Yeah.
She's got it.
Right.
So, yeah, I get why she's as upset as she is, but again, for me, this didn't bother me as much as any of his other stuff that he's got going on.
So Andrew is suggesting Phoebe needs to do something because she's rearranging Sully's cabinets. Maggie says Sully was just saying they should all go fishing, which is news to Sully, but he goes along with it. Sully says it would give them a chance to get to know each other. Andrew says he doesn't know how to fish. Sully says that he can learn, that Maggie did so when she was 5 years old, so he thinks that the smart neurosurgeon Andrew should be able to do the same, and Andrew ends up reluctantly agreeing. Phoebe and Maggie sit and watch as Andrew and Sully attempt to fish.
Yeah, and Andrew's terrified of the fishing, of having to talk to Sully, of the whole thing.
Right. Phoebe and Maggie talk meanwhile. Phoebe ends up apologizing for taking her away from Sullivan's Crossing and the mistakes that she made along the way. Cal comes to Shandon's and talks to Rob and describes how weird he left things with Jane. And Cal says that his deceased wife wanted him to be happy, and he's pretty sure Sarah wanted the same for Rob, and Rob thanks him for that.
Yeah, it was one of those nice little moments between them where they both get to talk about their shared experiences and in being widows. So
after the finale last season, I wanted more scenes between these two. I've gotten it.
Yeah.
And every scene that these two have shared has been gold, basically. They have a very nice chemistry.
I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but Rob heard about the baby.
Oh, yes.
From Rafe.
Yes.
So everybody's telling everybody now. There is no more secrets.
You can only keep a secret if you kill everybody else, basically, is the saying as it goes.
Yeah. And you know what? Actually, now that I'm reading this, I'm wondering if the scene that was cut was this. I wonder if Rafe was in the scene too. Because one of the press photos it's a picture of Alyssa standing in the diner, and there's just kind of the corner of someone's shoulder in the background. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, that looks a little bit like that might be like the uniform that like Rafe or Connie wears.
That's funny because I don't even recall seeing him in this episode.
He's not in this episode. No, there was no Rafe scene, and I'm wondering if he was in the diner, told Rob about the baby, and that's when Alyssa came in and told her that Connie wants to see her or something like that.
Okay.
Or talk to her about Connie.
Gotcha. Interesting.
I can see that being how all of this played out, and they're like, we'll just skip that.
So Sully offers Andrew a mealworm, and Andrew ends up thinking it's a snack, which is kind of funny. Andrew asks him if he knows how much bacteria is on one of those things, and Sully tries to teach him how to fish. Andrew gets stippy with him.
Now, I found found Sully to be very patient with Andrew. Actually trying to teach him.
He absolutely was. And then Sully apologizes for the previous night, saying he shouldn't have said what he said. And Andrew says, "Oh, no, you shouldn't have." And I'm like, really, what the hell?
Right.
Andrew is trying. Sully is trying in the scene.
Sully's trying.
Andrew very much is not.
He's doing exactly what everyone's telling him to do. He's trying to give Andrew a chance. He says, we need to figure out a way to get along. And Andrew's like, okay.
Yeah, he's like, well, that's going to depend on you.
Yeah.
And basically that's like, no. We don't need to figure out how to get along. You need to figure out how to get along with me, is basically how that goes out. I'm like, and I'm really, literally like, what the fucking Andrew here?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell is this? And, I'll get to my point of view on this later, but, man, this is a really terrible, effort from Andrew here.
Oh, absolutely.
And, Sully, after hearing this, could, start, getting into it with him and getting angry with him. But he just kind of looks and like, can you believe this guy? And he continues to basically fish with the guy. But, all right, so Lola enters the Shandons, asks about the woman with cow.
Yeah, she looked jealous until Rob told her who Sedona was. Mm-hmm. Because, of course, she is.
She goes and talks to them and is introduced. Lola asks about her case. Cal seems to think that there's not much hope, that there's no witnesses, the trail is cold. She ends up bringing... Sedona ends up bringing... Well, have you tried going to the site where it happened? Because that could jog your memory.
Right, because Lola said something about, the doctors always told me I'd get my memory back, but I haven't. Mm-hmm. So, hint, hint, that's probably going to happen in the next few episodes.
Right, but is she specifically going to remember anything other than a car hitting her? Is she going to realize it was Sully hitting her?
I think that's what's going to happen.
Really?
I think she this is my guess, but I think she's going to figure it out before Sully gets around to telling her.
Right.
Which is going to be horrible for their relationship.
So, Maggie and Petey watch Andrew and Sully for a bit. Maggie ends up going to talk to Andrew, who says he has emails to check on.
Yeah, he's bailing. He's done.
She says she was hoping that he would spend the day with Sully. Andrew asks, is he supposed to be pretending he's enjoying this? And Maggie's like, I guess not. Andrew can't wait to get back to Boston, where they will have something in common. Maggie says she's turned down Dr. Callahan's job, and Andrew's like, I get it. And she's like, you do? And basically he's like, oh, it's to be a stay-at-home mother.
Yeah.
I always respected my mom for doing that.
He assumes that she's giving up her career to raise the baby, which is not at all what she's talking about.
And my note here is presumptuous jackass. So he thinks she should reconsider the proposal, and she just walks away clearly really upset. Edna gets off the phone with cousin Warren, and now knows the truth about the whole thing that
they gave away his mother's regalia. So which is the reason, that he's fighting with his cousins.
And the thing here is that she's not really that upset about it.
No, she's upset that he lied to her.
Right.
And I've said this 100 times in my life. Don't lie. Lying is the worst thing somebody can do. 99% of the time, the fact that you lied is worse than the thing that you're lying about.
Right.
Promise. At least, that's how I look at it.
Gotcha.
And I feel like that's what's happening with Edna here.
Gotcha.
It's the fact that he lied to her about the fight and hid this from her is the problem. She doesn't care about his mother's... Not that she doesn't care, but, she wouldn't have been mad at him. She'd have been like, okay, that happened.
Right.
They'd have dealt with it together.
She thinks he should hear him out, and basically Frank doesn't want anything to do with that and tells her to mind her own business. This is not a very good episode for Frank, by the way. He doesn't do very well in this episode. But Andrew and Maggie enter, saying he's a fish out of water here, and okay, I do appreciate the dad joke from Andrew here. That's the only credit I'm giving him. Frank gives him some ribbing for the not fishing boots that he's wearing, though he does appreciate that he's actually wearing some boots.
Something better than what happened in the last season.
And it's kind of funny that Frank seems really amused by Andrew. Maggie says Sully is making an effort. Andrew, not so much.
Yeah.
Cal and his sister walk. Her head is hurting here, and it's pretty obvious where this is going. She's complaining about a headache, so we know that there's going to be some kind of medical crisis.
Of course,
here.
Because, we have to remember that Maggie's a doctor, and we have to give her something to do.
Right. They run into Andrew and Maggie, which is very awkward.
Yes, but, so Sedona leaves, though. She walks away before meeting Maggie, because she doesn't feel good. Well, you're looking confused.
Yeah, I think I'm missing a page in my notes.
Oh.
Huh.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I'll take over. So they don't actually meet Sedona. She just kind of walks away. She's gonna go back to Cal's cabin to rest, and so we have Maggie and Andrew and Cal, and
yes,
Cal reveals that Andrew told him about the baby because he says to Maggie, like, I'm so happy for you, and she's like, about what?
Right, and of course, when she realizes that Cal knows because Andrew told him, she's extremely upset by this.
She's caught off guard by this news. Like, she knew that he told the parents, and you know, and news spread from there, but she has no idea that any of the friends know, other than, of course, Sydney. So after Cal walks away, she makes sure that Andrew knows how betrayed she feels, right? So she gives him some shit. She's basically crying. Like, she's really upset about this. And you're still looking through your notes. You have a mess of notes there. This is why you need to number your pages. I tell you that every week.
Yeah, I think I just lost the page completely.
So the next scene is Cal returns to his cabin. He finds Sedona writhing in pain in the bed.
And yeah, she's talking about how she's hearing like kids' voices.
Yeah, she's like, the
and stuff
kids
like
outside
that.
are screaming and I can't sleep. And he's like, there aren't any kids outside. So she's having imaginary kids screaming. That can't be a good symptom.
No, I can't imagine that's good. That's good at all.
So she tries to go back to sleep, and he ends up taking her phone. There's a message visible on her phone that says, "Call me. I'm worried about you." So he snatches the phone and leaves. Next, we have Maggie and Andrew get back to the Sullivan house, and now she really tells him off about telling her friends about the baby. She goes off on him.
And then so she's going off on this, and then he says the magical line, you know, you're making way too much of this. It must be the hormones.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you serious? This motherfucker just said that and is still gonna keep breathing?
Yeah.
I know if Adam said something like that to you, I would have one less friend in the world. And if it should ever come to that, just know you probably shouldn't call me to do any body disposal because I don't think I can handle that. I'm just putting that out there now. But I cannot believe. And so she's like, it's not about the hormones, it's about us. And he's like looking around like, I don't know what her problem is.
Right. He has no idea what's going on right now.
It's like, wow, women be crazy, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She tells him, like, I don't need you to take care of me.
Right.
And he's like, you're overreacting.
Right.
Okay.
Every single thing that you do not say to a girl or a woman.
Or to anybody.
Right, yeah. Like, maybe just like, calm down.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So in other words, he does not understand at all what he did wrong.
Right.
That's the resolution here.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 things that he says here that would have got him knifed, with anybody else. But yeah.
So Phoebe and Sully, they've still been fishing, but they return to the outpost now, and they immediately sense the fight that Frank and Edna are having. So Phoebe excuses herself; she doesn't want nothing to do with that. Sully decides to pry, get in the middle of it. He's like, "I've never seen you two like this before. What's going on?" And so Frank tells them what they're fighting about because Sully already knows.
Yeah.
Which it didn't happen, but this should have made Edna more upset. That didn't come up, but she should realize right here that he told Sully the truth when he hid it from her.
Right.
And Sully's already involved in this conversation.
And then it's mentioned that Warren called and that wants to explain himself, and Sully is basically like, well, you don't want that? And of course he doesn't. And then it's basically like, well, can you talk some sense to him? She goes away.
Yeah, Edna leaves.
Sully asks a reasonable question,
right.
I might add. What's the harm in hearing this guy out? And in response to this, Frank throws the whole Lola situation
he's
in
like,
his face.
Have you talked to Lola yet?
I mean, damn.
So he gets up and walks away. He's like, nope.
I don't get mad at Frank very often, but I definitely did hear that.
It was a very passive-aggressive comment.
Yeah.
Frank's basically like, you don't have any room to tell me what I need to do because you're not doing what you need to do.
He wasn't even telling him what to do. He was just gently asking a question.
Right. Now, my note here is, you know what? These are not the same situation at all.
No, yeah.
One is like just talking it out with the cousin you're fighting with.
Right.
And the other one
is a minor thing, really, when it comes down to it.
And the other one is, Sully literally confessing a crime that he's been hiding for the last 10 years.
Right, yeah.
To somebody he's very close with, and it's going to affect their relationship.
Right.
It's not the same conversation.
No, and like I said, this is not a good episode for Frank at all.
So then Cal returns to Sedona again, and
she acts bizarre in this scene.
She's feeling a little better. She did get a little bit of sleep. He tells her that he called her husband Chris, and she gets very upset about this. Apparently, Chris told Cal that she left in the middle of the night without telling him or the kids, and he's worried about her. She left. She just up and left, had no idea where she was. So Cal is doing the responsible thing and has let her family know that she's safe and where she's at. And she basically tells Cal that he doesn't need to worry about her. It's not her problem. Obviously, there's something big going on with her.
Right. Yes. I would suggest that it's health-related, obviously.
It's obviously health-related. We're going to get more of that as we get to the end of the episode. But we already have these imaginary kids. We've got headaches all episode. It's not good. And she's locking her family out of it.
Right.
But she came to see Cal. It's very strange behavior that this woman is exhibiting.
I would say that this entire scene, she just acts really weird.
She's defensive because she doesn't want him to know whatever it is she's dealing with. And she doesn't want her family to know.
Right.
And I'm not sure exactly where that's going, but...
Right. I guess we're going to get more of that in the next episode.
Yeah,
okay.
She is in every episode the rest of the season.
Gotcha.
So we're going to continue to see Sedona and hear her story out.
Yeah.
So next, Alyssa goes to Connie's house, where apparently she's been summoned to. And again, I think that may have happened in the scene that the CW cut out. Connie wants to explain running out last night, and Alyssa decides to hear her out. And this felt really weird. And I think it's because we have missed scenes between them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good scene. It's well acted, and it does play along with last week. I just think that there's stuff missing here.
There feels like there's stuff missing, right?
That's why I thought maybe there was more a cut that might explain like this.
I feel like there is something else to this story that we've missed.
Yeah.
Because... she's basically like, hey, you feel rejected, and I don't mean to reject you.
And it's not like we got that impression in the last scene either, that we saw the Alyssa,
right,
which was in the bar when she was being told by
Lola.
Lola.
She left without saying goodbye, but she's acting like, hey, we want to date each other, but I'm having a hard time of it. And we never really got that.
Right. I mean, it's nice to get the subtext into the text, or the text into the subtext, or yeah, never mind what I was just trying to say there. But it's nice. What was the subtext is now in the text itself, right? Is what I'm trying to say.
But it felt like a step was missing.
Yeah, definitely. And that happens a lot in this show.
So Connie's explanation is that she grew up in a house where she was shamed for being who she was, as in being interested in women.
Yes.
And when she decided to marry Tom, her parents were relieved. But when she looks at how self-assured her son Jackson is, she wants to feel that freedom as well, but she isn't there yet. Well,
yeah, that's the difference between how Connie's parents raised her,
right,
and how Tom and Connie raised Jackson. So yeah, they weren't really supportive of Connie in the past, but Connie and Tom have been really supportive of Jackson, so he was able to develop that confidence that Connie was never able to get.
Speaking of Jackson, we haven't seen him since episode 1.
We will, though. He's listed in at least one other episode this season.
Okay, I haven't looked at that.
Yeah,
I'm sure that we need to. And, we expected this because T. Thomason moved away during filming, and I was like, oh no, because this is when we were watching. So here in the U.S., we're of course 6 months behind when it airs in Canada, and. I knew season 2 was filming, but we were still in the middle of watching season 1.
Right.
And it was when Jackson got hurt, right?
Yep.
And then I saw on social media that T. Thomason moved away from this region where the show's being filmed, because I'm friends with his mother on Facebook. I saw this.
Yep.
And I go, oh no, I think Jackson's going to die because he's not there for season 2.
Nope.
But he's okay.
Yes.
He's just, doing whatever Jackson's doing.
Right.
Anyway. So Alyssa understands, and they hug, and they're friends, and I guess she's going to help Connie deal with coming out, is where we're left with that.
Yes.
All right.
It seems like maybe we should have moved this scene to another episode.
You say that a lot.
I do. I do. It just feels like it's not really expanded upon enough.
Well, that's the problem with all of our side stories, is it feels like stuff's missing. And I think literally we've come to the conclusion now that stuff's missing because the CW isn't showing us the whole episodes.
Right.
I honestly think if we saw the uncut versions that aired in Canada, this would feel like an entirely different show when we look as far as evaluating all these subplots. which is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so Phoebe and Maggie talk, but they're very soon interrupted by Andrew.
Yeah, before that, she does say to Maggie to go easy on Andrew before he comes into the scene. And so he comes in, he's apologizing, not necessarily for the right things.
Yeah, I mean, he apologizes for telling her friends,
Yeah.
but I think he still doesn't get it.
Right.
He's apologizing because he knows that's what he's supposed to be apologizing for.
Right, yeah.
But not that he doesn't actually understand what was wrong with it, doing it.
Yeah, and basically every single thing that he says in the scene is basically wrong. He ends up like, is this about Cal? No, this is about me.
Right. Yeah, because she says, you know, she tells him the truth. Like, I do want to go back to work after the baby's born.
And, you know, he says that basically, oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, because you never bothered to ask me.
Right, exactly.
You have this romantic fantasy playing in your head, and it doesn't include me in it, really, when it comes down to it.
Right.
He basically wants to put Maggie in this Andrew-shaped box where she can fit into
that little house with the nursery.
But she doesn't necessarily...
And the guest house.
Exactly, but she doesn't necessarily fit into that box.
No, she's never wanted that, and she's... Right. I mean, I don't know. Has she really told him, though? Like, even back then?
Not straight up.
She wasn't really honest with him then either. So I kind of get why he doesn't realize that that's not what she wants, because she never spoke up.
Right.
Like, along the whole way.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of get, you know, where she should have spoken up earlier, maybe.
Yeah.
But he's not trying to understand her.
So he suggests, and my notes are back on point.
Okay.
So he suggests they aren't on the same page anymore. She says she didn't realize the piece of herself that she was missing until she came back to the crossing. And Andrew realizes that piece of her was missing as well, and realizes that they're basically breaking up. He says that he basically realized that it never was going to work. Now, I'm thinking that's kind of why he was so mad at Sully for saying what he said, because on some level, I think he knew
it was true.
Yeah, that he was right.
Yeah. But then again, I mean, what Sully said is we're never going to be family. I mean, technically you are. They don't have to be together. They're still sharing a grandchild and child. So they are still going to be like in each other's orbit.
Right. Now,
because of this child.
I hear that, but I don't think Andrew would have been upset as he was at what Sully had to say if he didn't recognize some of the truth of what Sully was saying.
Right.
And it's a testament to how good of an actor Alan Hako is that I feel for Andrew at all in this scene, because he's a terrible human being. And he demonstrated that once again during the course of this episode. But basically, the conclusion here is that she needs to do this herself, but he's always going to be a part of the baby's life. They just can't be together.
Yeah, she finally realized that you don't have to have a relationship with him for your child to have a relationship with him.
It's about time.
Right.
So he says he was really excited about the baby, and he thought it would draw them closer together. And once again, I think he kind of realized all along that this was not going to work, and that he was desperately trying to hold on to something that was never really meant to be. And I feel him there, because I feel that's relatable. Yeah. But at the same time, he's just an awful human being. So
he's still Andrew.
Right, yes. And so he decides...
And I no longer wish him on Lola.
No. So he decides to head back to Boston, and then Sully asks Frank and Edna, how long they're going to keep this up for.
Their fight.
Edna says it's up to Frank. That's very reminiscent to something that Andrew said to Sully earlier, like, it's up to you whether we get along or not. But Sully offers to close up after Frank ends up heading out. Maggie enters and tells Sully the news, and he does a very good job of pretending like he's sorry.
Right.
Even though you really know he's not.
In reality, he's ready to do a fist bump, because she's like, yeah, we're not going to be together.
I'm sure. So, actually, okay, so that's a little simplistic. I'm sure that he is happy that Andrew is not going to be with Maggie, but at the same time, I'm sure he genuinely does feel sorry for the fact that Maggie's in pain.
He's a good dad.
Yeah,
even though,
right.
Not everybody always feels that, right?
Right, yeah.
But he's a caring person.
He is.
But at the same time, he's ready to celebrate.
Yeah.
This is the best news he's gotten all week.
So
for us too.
Yeah. She says it's okay, and then Cal and Sedona come in, and they get introduced. They have a bit of a conversation, and then she says she's not feeling very good, has a seizure, falls over, and that's where the episode
And of course,
ends.
Maggie's there to jump in and
Right,
help.
yes.
Good timing, making it into the outpost
Right.
before that happened, and you're not standing in the middle of the woods.
Right.
They're here to get a key because Sedona's going to be renting her own cabin to hang out for a while.
Yep.
And when she has a seizure, my question was, I wonder where she's going to time travel to. And if you don't know what I'm talking about,
Yes.
go watch From on MGM Plus.
You absolutely should. That's a great series. I don't know if there's going to be fans that are going to crossover between the two.
A
but
few.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure there's some.
I mean,
we
I know.
can't be the only ones that followed Reed Price, right?
Yeah, I mean, actually, there actually is one that commented. I forgot to take his note. He's actually from the From community.
Okay.
Who commented on one of our Sullivan's Crossing podcasts after discovering us on Facebook.
Nice.
And I don't think he actually watches Sullivan's Crossing, but he is a Reed Price fan.
Yeah.
So
And
there's
that's why we're here.
Yep.
That's how it happened.
That is how the magic
but
began.
Definitely a lot of the From fandom, I think, would not like this show.
No, probably not.
I'm speaking to the part of the fandom that complains about, like, all they do is talk and there's no action. Like,
Right, yeah.
This show is just all people talking.
Yeah, basically.
Every scene is people talking and then rehashing the same exact thing with a different character in the next scene.
Right. Yeah, there's no monsters coming out to eat people
Yeah,
or,
no.
you know,
But
anything like
Reed
that.
Price is alive and well.
Yes,
So if
he
you
is.
like Tom the Bartender, come.
Yep.
This is it. Okay, so then the preview for next week. I know you didn't see it
Of course.
because I watch it
Yes.
on the linear feed and you don't. Sully and Phoebe are going to kiss.
Okay.
So we're going to explore them, exploring their relationship.
So I'm not sure.
And then
Yeah.
her husband comes. Walter's going to pop up at the crossing.
Joy.
Yeah.
And we just got rid of Andrew. Now we have to
Right.
deal with Walter.
Exactly. That's the preview for next week.
Okay. So, you know, I'm not sure that I actually need to see Phoebe and Sully rekindle their relationship.
Well, you know, I had it in my notes last week, and I don't think it made it into our discussion, but I was questioning, like, is that where we're going? Are we looking at them possibly getting back together?
Right.
Because she's expressed regret for leaving. And does that mean she expresses regret for leaving him?
Right.
Or just, you know, for changing their lives so drastically and keeping her daughter away and all that?
I mean, I guess we'll see how that's handled in episode 8.
Well, I mean, they're going to kiss, so
Yeah.
so yeah, there's definitely some something happening there, at least for one of them. I mean,
Right.
it was just a trailer cut, so we don't see the whole context of it. but
Right.
At least one of them is ready to try a kiss.
Yeah.
But, you know, then we're going to have the husband come, and so that should...
So we're going to spend the podcast talking about what an awful person Walter is for an hour?
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out. Because I don't know. I don't feel as strongly about Walter as I do about Andrew. I don't think.
I
I don't think we spend as much time with him, though, is
We
the
don't,
problem.
but I still think he's a giant pile of crap. Or
I mean,
how
we
he
know
handled,
he's a terrible human being for the
Right.
things he's done in his business practice.
Well, he's also intentionally kept Maggie away from Sully,
Right.
and was
Exactly.
instrumental in that. So just by that, like, keeping a man away from his child is low,
Right.
in my opinion.
And it's honestly had nothing to do with him, and he
Yeah.
really shouldn't have
Right.
involved himself in that at all.
Mhm.
Now, I get if he thought, like, yes, I think he is still drinking, and I think he's a danger to have, and I don't want to send her to another country to hang out with him alone. I could have respected that opinion
Yes.
if you found another way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you went with her and hung out in a cabin while she spent some time with her dad or something.
Right. Yeah, something like
But
that.
no, instead it was no contact whatsoever.
And that's-
because he says so.
Right, and that's just... Yeah, she was just going along with what he said, and that's horrible,
Yeah, that's not
in my
okay.
opinion. Yeah.
And, you know, I really think Phoebe is regretting a lot of things that have happened in her life at this point.
That's pretty much been demonstrated throughout
So
this
I
episode.
think that's
Yeah.
what's going to happen in the next episode is we're going to deal with Phoebe's feelings and figure out what she's going to do with her future.
And, you know, it's kind of funny. The last couple of episodes made me not dread that concept. Because, I mean, a couple episodes ago, you told me we were going to spend time dealing with Phoebe's feelings. I'd be like, I don't want to watch that. Because I was, you know, feeling basically the same about her as I felt about anybody else that Maggie has in Boston.
Now, another week has gone by where we have not actually fixed the money problem.
Yes.
Sully thinks he has a solution. I'm pretty sure that's going to fall apart.
Yes, it will.
So what are we doing to save the crossing? We're running out of time. There's only 3 episodes left.
That's literally going to be saved until the final episode of this season. That is going to be the finale, basically.
It's they need to address it.
Or maybe it's going to be a cliffhanger where we don't even know how that's resolved
Maybe.
until the next season.
Yeah.
But, yeah, all right. So anything else to say about this episode?
All I've got.
All right. We'd like to hear from you. What'd you think of this podcast? What'd you think of this episode? Stacie can be reached at.
I've reached on Twitter, X, Instagram, and Threads at TVN Coupon Talk.
If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join my Core Productions Facebook pages. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a copy. You can join the Core Productions membership for 99 cents a month. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to the channel. This is Dave and Stacie from Core Productions, signing off.